Okay, we've spent some time looking at the US weights and measures. Let's take a look now at the metric system. Most of the rest of the world uses this system. If you're taking science classes, you have to know something about this system. So it's a good thing to be at least somewhat familiar with. Our goals here are to just know what are the general metric units, how do they compare to the US units, and to be able to maybe do a little bit of conversion between the metric system itself and the US and metric system. So let's start with what are the basic units. For length, it's meters. For mass or weight, it would be grams. And then for volume, it would be liters. Now, what are all those things? So a gram, what's a gram? Officially, it's defined to be the mass or the weight of water that would fill a 1 centimeter cube. Okay, that's called a cc. We'll get to that in another video. But it is an interesting fact. So a gram is the weight of water in a 1 cc. Now, what about the other ones? What's a meter? Well, a meter, you kind of think about like a yard, because a meter would be maybe about the length of the handle of a shovel, snow shovels, a shovel out in the yard. A gram is actually pretty small. It's even quite a bit smaller than an ounce, because a gram is about the weight of 1 paper clip. It's really super small. And then a liter, well, that's kind of comparable to a small container or a quart of milk. You guys are probably familiar with a liter of soda, which is about a quart of soda, or a 2 liter, which is about 2 quarts. So that one we're probably the most familiar with. And one last thing I put down here is just to kind of give us an idea of the equivalencies. So a centimeter is about half an inch. 1.6 kilometers is equivalent to a mile. So it's like, oh, I ran the 5K, but we only ran 3.3 miles. But if you've done that, good for you, because that's still quite an accomplishment. A kilogram is about 2 pounds, a little more than 2 pounds, about 2.2. So if you want to lose weight, give your weight in kilograms. And 28 grams in an ounce. If you are a label watcher on your nutrition labels, you probably have already picked that up. And then volume, we've talked about. All right, so let's get to some conversions. The first thing we have to recognize is that within the metric system, we have those base units, and then we have prefixes that we use to tell us if we're getting smaller or larger from that base unit. Okay, so if my base unit here is the meter, the gram, or the liter, if I could put a prefix of deci in there, I mean it's 10 times smaller. It's a tenth of that base. If it's a centi, it's 100th, 1/100th of the base. If it's a milli, it's 1/1000th of the base. If we go the other direction, the prefix deca means it's 10 times, it's greater than. If it's a hecto, it's 100 times greater, and then kilo would be 1,000 times greater than that base. So the reason this is cool is because when you convert from one to the other, really all you're doing is moving that decimal point, because our number system is based on the unit of 10. Here's a fun little saying that I hope will help you with this unit. King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. It's King Henry doesn't usually, for my unit, drink chocolate milk. So that helps me remember what those letters are and figure out how to convert between them. All right, so here's just an example. 1 gram is a equivalent, and 1 kilogram would be 1,000 grams. 1 hectogram would be 100 of those. So it's showing you that some of them are 10, 100, 1,000 times, or 1/10, 100th, 1/1000th of that base. Now for the work. Let's see if we can actually do the conversions between metric units. We'll save converting from metric to US for another video. But right now I want to look at 5.87 meters. How many millimeters would that be? There's different ways that you can do this. In this particular example, I said, well, let's just take that little chart and think about it and say, all right, we're starting with meters, which is my middle unit here, and I'm going to convert to millimeters. So I'm going to hop from the meters, 1, 2, 3 hops to land at the millimeters. The way I'm moving tells me which way to move my decimal point, and the number of moves tells me how many places to move. So I move it 1, 2, 3 hops. I have to add a 0. So 5.87 meters is 5,870 millimeters. That was pretty easy. I didn't have to do fractions or anything. Let's take a look at another one. How about 812 centimeters to hectameters? Well, we're going to do the same thing. Same chart, but this time we're starting at the centi and we're going up to the hecto. All right, so notice that I'm starting at the centi, 1, 2, 3, 4 hops, but I'm moving a different direction. I'm moving to the left this time. So that's going to tell me that my answer is actually going to be different as well. So I move the decimal place to the left 4 places. Again, I have to add a 0 and get 0.0812 hectameters. So if I go from centimeters to a larger unit, I would expect to get a smaller answer here. Here's a few more. All right, so this time I'm not going to use that chart because you probably won't reproduce that when you're doing your work, but you can remember the saying, King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk, and that can help you answer these questions. So how many decaliters? Now you got to remember which D is the deca and which one's the deca. Deca is the dozen, deci is the drink. So deca comes before deci. I don't know really any other way to help you remember that except just some practice. All right, so how many decaliters are in 0.5 deciliters? So I wrote down my little saying, and then I did just like we were doing with the chart, and I count which way am I going and how many places. So from the deci, the drink, to the deca, the dozen, I have to hop 2 places and go to the left. So that means I'm going to move my decimal point 2 places to the left, and I get 0.005 decaliters. All right, let's see if you're getting this. Go ahead and pause it and see if you can do this next one. All right, let's see how we did. So converting 3,085 milligrams to grams. Once again, I'm going to write down my sentence. This time I'm going from milligrams to grams, which is the unit. So I count 1, 2, 3 hops to the left. So I start with my decimal point, 1, 2, 3 hops to the left, and we get 3.085 grams. Last one. Again, if you think you're getting this, pause it and see if you can do this one on your own. All right, let's check your answer. So, converting 32.5 kilometers to meters. King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. I'm going from king, kilometers, to units, meters. So we're going a different direction this time, and we're counting 1, 2, 3 hops over, but we're going to move the decimal point the other direction. So this time my answer is actually going to be 32,500 meters, because if I start here with my decimal point, move 1, 2, 3, I'd have to add 2 zeros. So that's how I got that answer. Last problem. Now this one involves a little bit more work, okay? We've got a 2-liter bottle that has 87 centiliters of oil and 4.1 deciliters of water. We want to know how much more liquid is needed to fill the bottle, and we have to give the answer in liters and milliliters. If you remember from some of my other videos, I've always suggested you convert down to the smallest unit of measure. I think it's just because I don't want to have decimals if I don't have to. And so that's maybe why I suggest it, but I do think it is easier. So what I'm going to suggest is you pause this for a moment, change your answers or change your centiliters into milliliters, change your deciliters into milliliters, figure out how much you have and how much you still need. Then we'll talk about the final answer. Okay, let's see how we did. So I didn't write out the whole statement, just my first letters here, so that I can make my conversions a little bit easier. We know that it holds 2 liters, and that means it would be 200 centiliters, or 2,000 milliliters. So to change from my main unit to centiliters, I'd move it twice. To change it from my main unit to milliliters, I'd have to do 3 hops. So that's where I got that answer. We're going to use that in the end. Okay, so what do I have? I have 4.1 deciliters. So from the D to the C would be 1. That means I have 41 centiliters. So I could add the 2, I could add that with my centiliters here, or I could say, you know what, we're going to end up with milliliters in the end. Let's just keep going. So from deciliters to milliliters, you'd have to move it 2 places, and we'd end up with 410 milliliters. The 87 centiliters that we've been given, well, that's great. Now I can combine these, but my final answer needs to be in milliliters, so we need to move the decimal over once, making it 870 milliliters. Combining those, we get a total of 1,280 milliliters that we have. We need 2,000 to fill the bottle, so that's a simple subtraction problem, and I get 720 milliliters are needed to fill the bottle. Okay, they also wanted the answer in liters. So going from milliliters to liters, 1, 2, 3 hops backwards. So I'm going to start here with my decimal point, 720 point. So 1, 2, 3, then that means I would need 0.720 liters to fill the bottle. Let me know if you have any questions.